This is Coda Radio, episode 339 for January 3rd, 2019. Why, hello there, and welcome into Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show that takes a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development. I'm supposed to be that guy from Diablo, but no, it is actually me, your host, Mr. Chris Fisher, joined by your other host, our savvy man in Florida, the man with the plan. It is Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
We has the power again.
Yeah, we do. I just got it back about 20 minutes ago. There's a big storm. In fact, we may lose it again, really. The wind hasn't gone away. And I've only got UPSs in a few vital systems. So, I had this moment where I'm sitting there working, and the power goes out, my speakers go out, my external monitors go out, but I'm on a laptop, so I'm like, I don't care. Whatevs. I'm still working. And then it dawns on me in about 10 seconds after that, well, that doesn't mean I have networking. So I was basically out of work. So I had to get on my phone and Slack you and be like, I'm out of power. I might not be able to make it.
But you did make it, Chris.
I couldn't miss this episode. Could not miss this episode.
I can't imagine why.
Well, it's my last one, as you well know, because, of course, I've been voted off the show. I'm no longer allowed on the show anymore, so I have to go now. I apologize.
So you've been on Reddit, I see. I was also voted off the show.
Yeah.
You and I we're just going to sail into the West,
And you know what? Sometimes those things, it's just the time. Those things happen. No, we got so much feedback. We didn't plan to talk about sleep. Honestly, it's just, it's the holidays. So we've been kind of just having fun and just catching up and chatting with each other. And like pooping, sleeping, something we all do. And of course, I think everybody would admit it directly affects your work. And so we got on the topic of it, and boy, if that didn't touch off a ton of feedback, a whole range of it. Some really strong feedback on Twitter and an email, and some strong feedback like we were just kind of indicating on the Reddits too. I thought, maybe we just talk about it really quick. Just it's not something we're going to run away with, but wow, I was really impressed by how it resonated with some and it upset others. So thank you for putting up with it. We appreciate your time, and that's why the good podcaster invented chapter markers. If you don't like that kind of stuff, we do have those chapter markers, specifically because we acknowledge that about these types of shows. When you have a show that's an hour long, there's going to be, especially more often than not, there's going to be weeks where not all of it resonates with everyone. But we did get a whole bunch. We got a bunch of feedback also on TDD, which I think was excellent. So why don't we just get into it? And then we'll get into the hoopla of the week, which there is some fantastic homegrown hoopla. But first,
you and I define fantastic differently.
Well, we do. Yes, we do. Well, it's fantastic for me. It's horrendous and potentially marriage ending for you. But
yes, it was great.
All right. Well, our first bit of email comes in, and I believe his name is Michael, but different Michael. He says, "Hi, Chris. The segment on the year of structure and waking up early was the last thing I expected to hear on my first ever listen of Coda Radio. But goddamn, that struck a chord with me more than anything I've heard recently. I don't want to make this take any longer than it has to. It's one of my future goals. So I just wanted to say thanks. The talk was a bit of an inspiration. I needed to get my own shit back together. Respectfully, Michael." I love that. And I'm glad that for some people it had that impact. That's awesome, Michael. And thank you for writing that in. And I think we touched on it last week. It has massive ramifications. Some of us destroy machinery when we haven't gotten proper sleep, but more on that later. Our next email comes in. I think I've been listening since whenever Nadella was made Microsoft CEO. And I'm chuckling because I read that as Nutella the first time I did a read-through on this. So I'm really glad it's Nadella because that makes a lot more sense. He says, "I've been listening since whenever Nadella was Microsoft CEO, became that. And this is the first time Coda Radio or a podcast at all has gotten me to react emotionally in a positive way. You're making me hate you in a way that only you can hate someone that speaks the truth when you know you're wrong. I don't know what's worse. Hearing structure is good, God forbid, health, or the fact that you're confirming that to better oneself. That's a shit sandwich that one has to eat. Listening to the segment was revealing for me because you're putting into words something I've been thinking for a while. You made me realize just how much it's harming me not to have a framework to work with. Rules you understand are helpful. Rules you understand are helpful. After all, who would have guessed? Yeah, I wish you the best this year and the year of structure you're setting up. I'll be expecting further news on your success in new episodes. Well, all right.
Well, that won't be today.
No, not today. Not today. But yeah, I am looking forward to the year of structure. I think it's going to be really good for me. And I started to say this last episode, but didn't really say it very well. My lady's making a huge transition in her small business that she runs. And
you did. Yeah, you did mention that.
It's been really good for both of us because we're just kind of both in the same place. You know, if one of you is really up for all of a sudden having structure and doing routines and the other isn't, that can really lead to conflict too. So I feel like the iron's hot. All right, our next message comes in. It says, howdy, I'm a coder who's feeling increasingly out of touch with the software world. I develop mostly server-side software, middleware in C, Perl, or even Bash, but I haven't done front-end work since HTML 4.1, and I never developed a mobile app in my life. You know, for a fun home project, I decided to try and reverse engineer my elliptical machine's proprietary Bluetooth interface. You know, rather than having to buy a subscription in the Android app, I figured, why not? The Bluetooth is a bit... Oh, man. Check 1, 2. Sorry about that guy. Oh, there it goes. We just lost a machine in the studio, but we're still going. The Bluetooth bit is turning out to be the easy part, and now I'm looking to write an Android app and maybe an iOS app for my wife's iPad. But my question is this, guys. Is there a framework or a paradigm for developing an app that can be compiled for both iOS and Android with minimal platform-specific code? I know C and Perl, and I'm proficient in Bash, Java, and Python. But I'm not necessarily opposed to learning a new language if necessary. However, I've done just enough .NET to never want to do that again. But what is more mainstream? What is a more mainstream way of doing this? Something like Cordova, perhaps? Is it reasonable to use a PWA to interface with the phone's Bluetooth stack? Bonus points, too, if you can get me a solution that lets me write in C11. Okay. Boy, different forms of this question have come into the show over the ages. Starting 2019 out with a classic.
So my answer is going to be roughly the same because I just a couple months ago did this evaluation to do BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, on a cross-platform mobile app. I would normally just say like Ionic. There is a Bluetooth module that you can add in. However, it is a little flaky on Android. So you're going to want to think about that. And now I am thinking a couple months back, they may have patched it. You can check it out on GitHub. It's just the Ionic-BLE is the name of the plugin. So you don't want to do .NET, so you throw out Xamarin right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't want to pay a licensing fee, so Qt is going to be right out the door because for iOS you have to have the license.
Okay.
That's actually kind of tough because really those are kind of the big options, right? Like a React Native, Ionic, Xamarin, and then Qt if you're going more, expensive.
The iPad's kind of the sticky wicket here. If he was just trying to do this on Android, this would be a little bit easier to pull off, right? It's trying to get it on the wife's iPad too.
Right. If it was just Android, I'd say just do native Kotlin. I think, right? Like that would be.
Yeah.
I would take a look at some of the. There are solutions out there. I don't know them super well. Like there's I would almost look at React Native, even though I'm not a huge fan, because your trick is going to be getting a Bluetooth plugin that works on both platforms and it works well.
Yes.
So I'm trying to quickly figure this out.
Real-time Googling, right?
Real-time Googling. So I'm just checking the BLE plugin for Ionic. All right, actually, it does look like it's been patched. So yeah, like I said, my data was like 2 or 3 months old when I was evaluating.
Yeah, and then also I was also doing a Google search here, and there's some nice example code you could use too to kind of help get you started, which might be.
So I'll link that in the chat.
Yep.
And
I'll drop a link in the show notes. So
so I would almost think about Ionic then. It's you're mostly going to be writing in TypeScript or JavaScript. It's very it's Angular-esque. It's very much based on Angular. and you can not have to deal with .NET. So
There you, and which is really what's important.
you've got your priorities.
I don't really know how to summarize the TDD feedback we got. Like, we got everything from "don't ever talk about this again" to "hire me and come in and let me show you how to do this properly." Like, people were fired up.
Consultants were ready.
Which is, I don't know how to take that exactly. I think the people that were into it were passionate. We got one listener who tweeted us, who I don't think it's his day job, but he's just big into like DevOps processes and whatnot too, and was super enthusiastic about helping out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so the range again, last episode, like we're sitting there free flow and talking about stuff that was on our mind, and we got really polarized responses on all of it.
Very polarized. I mean, my Twitter feed for about literally that evening and the next day was just either "you're completely right, TDD's a waste of time," or "listen, man." And I have to say, I'm kind of the "listen, man" crew, I think, got me.
Really?
Yeah, someone, I think his name was Tim, if I recall, although it's a Twitter name, so who knows, was kind of explained it to me in a different way. It's not about testing. It's about forcing yourself to architecture code in a certain way. I was trying to say that in less elegant words. Yes, I completely agree. So forcing small functions, like basically all the things, like if somebody, when like particularly college kids email them, like, how should I design this? Keep it dry, right? Keep it simple. But it's basically the BDSM version of that. So get your ball gag and be happy.
Really? Okay. Though, this isn't really why Twitter was blowing up.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
You do know what I'm talking about.
You know what? I miss the ads. Can I say that?
Yeah, I know, right? Could buy a little time, right? A little buffer. I was going to start doing like some housekeeping in the show, because you and I from time to time just have things going on that we should mention. And, maybe mention, like, we're so bad about mentioning the Twitter handle for the show, or the subreddit, or the fact that there's other shows on this network and things like that. Like, we're horrible at that kind of stuff.
We do mention BSD now pretty frequently.
Yeah, but that's just a curse at those guys, right? Yeah. Especially that Alan Jude.
So, go for it.
Okay.
Enjoy your victory, sir.
Thank you. If we had predictions on this show, like proper predictions, I would have made this prediction. And the prediction would have gone something like this.
Oh,
I will open up my Twitter and I will see 40 unread notifications since the last hour I was on Twitter, and think to myself, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done to get 40 people yelling at me? And then I click the notification button and I quickly realize that it's not me that's done something. Once again, Michael Dominic has destroyed another laptop. Another machine is dead, and he has to buy another computer. And Twitter at this point, they think you got a problem. They just can't even believe it. 12 minutes ago, this tweet thread is still live. Ryan Sipes tweets, What happened? How is this possible? How can you afford this?
So
what happened?
I can't.
What happened? What happened? Was it water? Was it a beer ski?
It was water. I'm pleased to say that there was no alcohol involved in this. Which I
don't know
guess
if that's
makes
good.
it.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it makes it worse.
Yeah, it's just when you're sober you do this. That's not necessarily good.
So remember how I was all up with you on sleep?
Yes.
Right. Well, I of course decided not to listen to my own advice the following day, and was up working till about 3 a.m. with V-Moto wired headphones in, with a thick, let's say, very resilient cable as far as headphone cables go. And I was working in my kitchen, which this is a common theme, with a nice tall Tervis tumbler, which is, if you're not from Florida, they're like weird plastic glasses of ice water on a MacBook Pro.
Oh, no.
My phone buzzed. It was behind me. Why it buzzed at 3 a.m. was nonsense, but you get nervous if it's 3 a.m, right? I turned to grab it. The cable catches the glass, and I would say maybe about half a liter of water pours directly into the MacBook Pro.
The power, when you say the cord, you mean the power cord to like your phone?
No, I mean the cord for my headphones.
Oh, okay.
So completely my fault. So it immediately turns itself off. Yeah, and you can just tell when you're in trouble. Like I've done this enough times now
You
that
definitely can tell.
I'm pretty well versed in the levels of damage here. So I put it on a towel. I open it up, put it upside down on a towel, and I let it go. And then, of course, I tweet that thing out the following morning.
Oh, so you sat with it all night?
I just put it on a towel and I went to sleep. But I was cursing myself. So my wife gets up, comes downstairs, sees yet again a MacBook sitting on the counter upside down.
Describe her look. What was the look on her face when she sees this? So, okay. Because, I mean, I can imagine she's putting it all together.
Downstairs,
you haven't told her yet. She's seeing this thing on the counter, and she immediately knows what's gone down. She knows immediately. She knows this scene.
She knows. This is like, we had a little intervention about trying to work all night. Needless to say, you can draw a direct correlation with about a 30% chance of me destroying a laptop between all-nighters now and dead Macs. Literally 30%. So that's pretty sobering, right? Because the amount of money you make with those extra hours is not very much compared to the cost of the laptop. So there's two things to know here. One, as soon as I can get a decent desktop, I'm getting a desktop. No more late nights. And for right now, I'm stopgapping on a MacBook Air. This is one of those situations where I went to Apple and they're like, it's dead. You can send it in, but it's one of those situations where it's just dead.
I mean, were you planning to buy another Mac? Yeah, No.
No.
Huh.
So now I'm kind of like, I've been working the last 2 days on a Mac Air, which is
a 2018 or older.
2018.
How's the performance?
It's fine. I mean, it's slow-ish, but it's not. It's serviceable for what I'm doing. But it's got to be desktops, Chris. I can't keep doing this. Like, Twitter had a lot of fun at my expense. To be honest, I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It hurts.
This is just bad.
This one hurts. It hurts bad, huh?
It hurts bad.
How's the wife not left you yet? I mean, I'm out of here. I'm done.
Well, she, I mean, her thing is you should just work like regular hours, right? Solve your problem. One shot. It's tough though with water damage because you can't like, I don't know, it didn't turn on when they open it and there's like a lake inside. Like, you can't even like try to hustle the Apple.
No.
Genius.
No, you got to own it. You have to. They got those little stickers in there that turn colors when they get wet.
Well, right. Well, and the worst part is I called the business rep for my local Apple store and he says, don't tell me you did it again.
He's like, I'm done taking your money, man.
No, you know what he said? He's like, just get a Mac Mini. That's really, he's like, just keep it away from any beverages. Get a Mac Mini, which actually isn't the worst advice. So yeah, this is, all kidding aside, I think, Chris, you win. I think this proves your point about, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think about having systems in place, responsibility, right? All this kind of good stuff.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah, about having some structure, and that way you're not pulling these crazy late hours and getting yourself in a situation where you're exhausted and keep making expensive mistakes that end up just costing you more money if you have to keep replacing the hardware. That's rough. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, maybe they just need to make they need to make a waterproof line of MacBooks, and then you'd be okay.
You know what? I mean, I want to get off the hardware things. I know people hate it. I was thinking about, though, 99% of the time, or maybe 90, unless I'm traveling to see a customer, I am in my home office at a desk looking at this LG 5K monitor.
Right.
Right. Or I'm at another desk with the Galago.
And I really feel like with tools like SSH and TeamViewer, you really can't. You can just get a cheap machine that is near disposable and then remote in.
I'm kind of getting there, because if these laptops are going to have such a ridiculous Mike destroys them rate, I'm strongly considering either Thalioing it up, but that is the problem is I can't do iOS dev on it, or just at some point getting the Mac Mini, because I really don't need a GPU. And, that's it. Something I think you're considering.
Don't even get me going today. we're not going to talk about our software setups, right? I mean, we're not going to do that because people hate that. They don't like that.
People hate that. Yeah.
They hate that. But I have to tell you at what point do you stop thinking about your tools? Like, never, maybe? Is it never? Is it just do we say never? Is it just this is part of this job? When you are doing...
I think it's never, because things change.
I hate that answer. I'll tell you what. I've had a good 9 months. I've had a really good 9 months. Regardless of whatever happens, I've had a good 9 months. And it was a good run. And for 9 months, I had a special gift that was given to me. And that was the gift of reliability. I was able to walk into my studio, sit down, and do my shows. I could open up my applications, and everything worked. That gift has been taken from me, and it's been murdered now. And now I have I'm having across the board technical issues, software issues, hardware issues. I made it 9 months. I made a good, solid 9 months. And now I am pulling my hair out. And the storms haven't helped. The power outages haven't helped.
Yeah.
But I can tell I'm feeling like I'm fighting the urge to just explode about this issue. The more I fight it, the more I'm sick and tired of it, because it feels like I am refighting the same battles over and over again, and that I'm not making progress. Like, I'm not moving forward because I'm still fighting these battles. And yeah, I don't know. It really is. I know. I can tell you're not feeling good about this one. This one really sucks for you.
No,
I feel like
it sucks.
That too.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, I do have all this iOS work I need to get done. It's just a stupid problem to have. Kind of like Pulse Audio.
You're trying to trigger me, aren't you? You're trying to get me to talk myself into a circle where I get the whole audience mad at me again. 2 episodes in a row. I see what you're doing here.
Well, they're definitely going to be mad at me. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with the thing that I've been pushing up against, and I think the thing that you're pushing up against, is you have these ideas of these things you want to accomplish, and there's a various range of things that prevent it from happening. But when it's your own software or your own tools that are preventing it, it's very frustrating. So what Mike's referring to, just is so we're not dancing around it, is before the show started, we had a power outage here in the Pacific Northwest. The area lost power for about 45 minutes. So the UPSs we did have died, and everything was off. Wes was in the middle of doing a recording for TechSnap, and we lost that, which ironically is the second recording that we've lost due to another power outage. We've been having a lot of storms in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of storms. And when I turned everything back on, everything was broken. The systems weren't talking. The audio wasn't working. Everything was broken. And it took me about 25 minutes to get everything working. 25 minutes when, it's just been doing this a really long time. So if it takes me 25 minutes to get everything working, it's pretty significantly broken. And there is a part of me that I don't have the best control over, that I wish I had more self-control over me, that would say, that I wish I could govern it a little better and say, calm down, it's going to be all right. But there is a part of me that says, I don't care what the cost is, replace every machine in this room in 2 weeks. And I don't want to see this happen again. I'm really done with it. I'm just so done with it. Just like you're probably done with toasting machines. Like I am really ready to take whatever dramatic action that is to make sure that I don't have to deal with the problems I'm dealing with. And I have, I have my own special issues, but if I don't solve this in the next couple of months, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose my mind. I am so sick and tired of dealing with this issue. I'm so sick and tired of talking about the software and hardware issues. I'm so sick and tired of having to fix these problems. I had a good 9 months. I had a really good 9 months. Had a really good 9 months. But
I know the feeling. Yeah.
I am legitimately beginning to question so many things that I've based this whole studio around, like the use of Linux to begin with. Like maybe Pulse Audio is just not reliable enough. Maybe I just can't rely on it. And it's because of, issues that I'm running into that are, I think not really solvable for me. I'm being penalized for standardizing on the same hardware and the same audio interfaces, because apparently Pulse Audio goes by the name of a device, not by its unique identifier. So if you have multiple audio interfaces connected to a computer that are all the same name, because in a production environment you tend to standardize on hardware, it just starts randomly flipping through them at different and starts setting things as in and outs, and it just can't keep track of it. It doesn't know what device is what, and it's affecting multiple machines. So anyways,
That is extremely strange.
it's very frustrating. And I know I know it doesn't really matter to anybody else. I know it's just my problem. But I got to tell you, I've gotten to a point where when I'm dealing with this kind of stuff, I just turn into like a big baby. Like I'm super bummed. I lose energy. I lose momentum in my day. I physically become tired. Like I'm like exhausted. I'm like, oh, I'm really tired. Like it drains me from all of my energy and my will to sort of fight for the day. And I'm done. Yesterday, we were just doing a marathon recording session. We recorded 5 separate like interviews and shows and stuff that we're just trying to bank for while I'm traveling. And same thing started happening. We started at 9 a.m. We started recording. And at 1:30, we took a 20-minute break. And we came back at 1:50, and all of the audio interface stuff had screwed up in that 20 minutes on 2 different machines. And we spent 40 minutes into the start of the next show while people are hanging around the live stream, getting it all settled and get it all working again. And I was exhausted after. I was just so, and even though I've fixed that stuff a million times, I've been fighting those battles for years now. Like it's not like it's an insurmountable task for me. It's not like it's an unknown field that I'm entering into that I have to solve a problem I don't know how to solve. It's the opposite of that. It's like I've solved this problem so many times, and the fact that I'm still attempting to solve it years into it is causing like this emotional drain on me that makes me sort of suck at my job. Like it's affecting the way I produce these shows right now. Like I'm sitting here bitching about it instead of doing a better show. Like it's ruined my day, and I have to fix it, and I don't know how to fix it. And I'm starting to think it's not fixable with Linux, and I'm starting to feel like I'm in this impossible situation where I do shows about Linux, but to actually make the shows, I can't use the operating system I'm talking about. And there will be 1,000,002 people on the internet that will tell you you can do it all under Linux. And I was one of them. I had a good 9 months.
That's frustrating.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe it's 2019 and I'm dealing with this. What? DigitalOcean.
Oh, no.
That'd have been a great ad.
No, DigitalOcean's not frustrating.
No, I know. It's just that.
We've had some questionable ad reads before, I think. You know what's not frustrating? Swift.
What? I'm sorry, what? You
Swift
bastard.
is...
What? I'm sorry, where'd Mike
You didn't
go?
see that coming. You didn't
Where's
even...
Mike?
We have him in the basement. If you want to see him, tell me the difference between struct and class and Swift. So I have been reading everything I can get my hands on about Swift and basically how to do Swift correctly, right? I think the current version is Swift 4. And I have been playing in the playground. I realize how that sounds. I have been Xcoding it up quite a lot. Do you know what I realized? Take a guess, Chris.
The internet always thinks they know best. No, sorry, I'm just dealing with the chat room right now.
I see. I had the chat room closed.
Yeah, good. Because the chat room tells me my problem is I just didn't back up my config and restore it. That kind of stuff drives me crazy.
I mean, why isn't your bash RC in a GitHub?
Right.
In a gist? That would solve all your problems.
No, I don't know. What?
So I have learned what I think are 3 fundamental things about Swift. 1, Apple lied when they said it would be an easy transition from Objective-C. I mean, and 2, protocol-oriented programming, as opposed to, let's say, object-oriented programming, is very interesting. I haven't decided if I think it's good yet, but it's certainly a different way to think about your architecture. And particularly, I find myself writing my Swift in a very kind of functional way, which like my Objective-C was all super, object-y, factories kind of stuff. I think I might like it.
What about it? I mean, I think if I recall your original criticisms, it was like a baby programming language designed for beginners, for newbies that didn't need to know how to program.
It's almost the exact opposite, actually. It's okay. So let's do a compliment sandwich here. It is on a shallow level simple enough that you can write Swift as though it were Java or Objective-C and more or less get away with it, right? But that's going to be some pretty bad Swift. The negative thing I would say is it has so many features from so many different types of programming languages that you can make Swift be basically what you want it to be. In a lot of ways, I think it's one of the... How can I put this? So like Ruby, right? You can write Ruby or like a Rails application the Rails way, or you could write it very, Java-esque procedurally. But on the language level, Ruby is what Ruby is. Ruby is a religiously OO language. Swift is like, yeah, I'm kind of OO, I'm kind of functional. I've got this whole protocol-oriented programming thing going on. And I'm struggling with, Apple says it's a system level and an application level language, right?
Okay.
Those are two very different things. Not that there aren't languages who cross that divide. I'll let you know. C++. But Swift, I almost feel like that's an unfair comparison. It is more a application level programming language with a bunch of system features for safety and for basically avoiding runtime exceptions or runtime faults built into it.
Right.
And I think it's going to be good. Now, I worry about things like, Swift, for instance, I accidentally picked up a book on Swift 2, and now we're at Swift 4. And just the obnoxious level of changes, right? And I get that's 2 years old, but as far as language design goes, that seems pretty unstable to me.
Right? That is the penalty you take for such an early language.
Well, then now they claim that it's going to be stable now.
Well, that would make sense. That would happen over time.
Right. I think that's part of nature, right? See, this is the problem. Swift has some very strong opinions that are super weakly held. For instance, all the safety stuff with optionals and that like you have to unwrap objects and you're really not supposed to have nil running around. But you can just override all that crap if you want to. Which I've been kind of like looking around and asking other people about how they write Swift. And there is definitely I need to get something done and I'm not going to have a pyramid of doom for type,
Isn't it interesting? That feels very Apple to me. Like do it. You need to do it this way. You have to do it this way. You must always find the design. You must always follow a design guideline, unless you need to use that private API you figured out to do that thing, and you want to stand out on the platform, so you want to design your own thing. Then all those things are fine, until they're not fine. That sounds very Apple to me.
Yeah, I mean it's less of a private API situation and more of a.
Oh no, I'm just making an analogy. Yeah.
Right, like the. So like optionals, right? All the unwrapping values stuff adds a layer of, I would almost call it indirection, right? Because, var Tessa : dog, right? So I have a variable of the type dog called Tessa. If I put an exclamation point at the end of dog, that becomes just the way I treat that variable becomes very different. Now it is absolutely if your objective is that runtime crashes are, terrible and thou shalt not runtime crash, which I could tell you there's lots of scenarios where that is the case, then I think it's great. But some of the patterns are a little, and you have to check and you have to unwrap and you have to check and you have to unwrap and you have to check. It gets a little, is this not the equivalent of an Objective-C just having if, not nil?
I see what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. But you can see where they're coming from. Right? Like it's hard for me. I'm not even sure that I disagree with them, Chris. Because, it's avoiding and that's just one safety feature. I'm picking on it because other language like C#, C#8 is adding a similar feature called nullables. And it works very similar to how Swift's optionals do. Keep in mind, optionals in C# are something different. So there's a little bit of language abuse between those languages and that sentence. But I'm almost getting to the point of saying it is not correct. Let me backtrack. The extra time and architecture investment in following these new quote unquote patterns I'm going to say guarantee, but not. I know someone's going to write it. It's not really a guarantee. There are lots of cases. Guarantee, right? Runtime safety. Even if it's slightly more obnoxious when you're writing the code initially,
right?
Because I have personally had the experience of maintaining code from like 5 years ago. I think it's worth it, especially if you're writing things that are like mission critical, right? If it's like yet another, Uber clone, well, that should just crash all day. Yeah, like it's blowing my mind a little bit because some of my like, for instance, I used to love a pattern, and I still do in a lot of languages, where it's like session current session, like a singleton pattern, right? A simple singleton. I use it in C# all the time. With Swift, if you're doing it the way that's quote unquote correct, you're really not going to want to do that. I mean, obviously you're going to store state, your auth token needs to go somewhere, but you're going to be much more, functions are inputs in, input out. And now that it's one thing I will give Swift that Objective-C kind of could do, like you could do like array returns to kind of fake tuples. It has tuples, so you can do multi-value returns. That makes my life so much less of a pain in the ass. You can also abuse it and make it very confusing. Am I sounding sane? I realize I'm...
Yeah.
Chris says no.
No, I'm just thinking. I was giving it some thought. Yes, I think this is a fair assessment, and I think the way you're explaining it makes sense. I kind of would like to dig down to what caused all of this. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm wondering if I could guess, but I'm trying to figure out what sort of brought all this on. And I'd be willing to bet it was project-based, because just recently I've been thinking about trying to transition to a different tool. But it hasn't stuck. It hasn't stuck because I haven't had a job I've had to do yet. So I'm kind of curious what brought this on to lead to these sort of, not necessarily revelations, but maybe a change in viewpoint.
Well, I mean, a few things. One, Swift is very different from the day it launched. In a lot of ways, it's been cleaned up. It's got basically all the features you would have wanted. I am by no means a Swift evangelist. I just want to kind of preface this, right? Like, I still think there's weird design decisions in the language. But the answer is actually pretty simple, and I think you alluded to it. There's a device that can do something I've wanted to do for years. So, yay. Right? Like, this is the tool you need to use for this job.
So is that a yes then?
You got garbled on the original question.
Oh, okay. So it is a yes. It is project-based. It's work-based. It's
work-based, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of forced it. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that always really the one that really makes it stick? To make something that you're not super comfortable with stick? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's project-based.
So now what? So where do you go from here? Do you keep working with it? Do you try to take on more Swift work? Is it something that's going to become a focus for you, or is this a one-off?
I think I'm going to be doing Swift for a while. I mean, current project's going to last months. So, I have a few things I think I'll be shipping in Swift. Yeah, I think this could be a thing.
Well, then maybe that MacBook Air wasn't such a bad purchase.
Hey, Swift runs on Linux too.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does, doesn't it? In fact, what was that? What Vapor?
Vapor.
Yeah, Vapor. Oh, yeah, I got it.
Vapor.
That's pretty good. Well, Mr. Dominic, I don't know. I would say I'm impressed, but impressed, bewildered might be bewildered and impressed, I think is what it is. I'm a little
I also want to be able to dev for your HomePods if there's ever an SDK.
Oh, you bastard. You had to, didn't you? Didn't you hear Apple's going out of business? So I don't think you have to worry.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, Apple's going out of business, Netflix is taking over the internet, and Microsoft does all the innovation now. That's what the internet told me today. Well, hell of a start. So you're switching to Swift. I'm having a hell of a time with Linux. I'm not really saying I'm going to switch away from Linux though, but I am going to
do it. Just go 9 months on BSD.
Yeah, maybe. I did have a good 9 months. I did, but I'll tell you what. I'm going to be driving from Washington to Texas, starting this weekend and over next week, getting married along the way. And I do plan to use that time.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. I plan to use that time to kind of reflect on some of these things and really just decide, what things am I done wasting my time on? And it doesn't mean it's a final commitment. It doesn't mean it's a forever commitment. It means this is a year of structure. And if there's certain things that I have to change and fix, so that way for one damn year, things are reliable and structured in the areas in which I have leverage, then maybe I'd make those changes. And that's what I do when I go on these long road trips is I use a lot of that time to think. I put on a pair of headphones and I drive. And sometimes I don't even play any music or any podcasts in the headphones. I just have it off. It's usually what the first couple of days that I'm driving, I'll drive for 8-9 hours a day, nonstop, with half hour here or there every couple of hours, I suppose. So not quite nonstop. But without music or without podcasts, just thinking about stuff. And I find it to be a great opportunity because the driving gives my hands and like my lower lizard brain something to do that satisfies the ADD monster that lives inside me. But I can't go anywhere and I can't do anything higher level like communicate with another human being like on the internet or plan a show. So that spare CPU just sits there thinking about things and putting things together and spending time reflecting on stuff that I don't have time to reflect on when I'm going a million miles per hour in my day-to-day life. And I don't know, if anybody else has an opportunity to get their version of that at the beginning of the year, like maybe go for a long drive or a long train ride or go for a walk or lock yourself in the shitter for a couple of hours, but just take some time and think about those kinds of things that you don't normally give yourself the space to think about it. Because it's the beginning of the year now, and if you were going to take any bit of structure advice from me, from all the stuff that I'm trying, that might be one of it, because it probably would be very beneficial. And, where Mike's at right now, to me, it feels like a perfect opportunity for you. It's very reflective. It's very contemplative. If you've just gone through this destroying yet of another machine. You've had the come to Jesus conversation with the wife over the cost of this and how it's eating any profits that you're getting by working late, and you're left with health that's struggling and sleep that's inadequate. And it's a good opportunity to, while you're feeling this way, to go, and not in a negative way, but to go, all right, let's take some time to think about the stuff that I don't normally spend time with. And not in a beat up on yourself way, but in a way of what are areas I can address and provide a little structure around to make sure that these things are better. They don't happen quite as much. And like with Mike, he was talking like, maybe I'm going to try to get my work track. I'm going to try to get my work schedules back on track, try to get things back to a normal set of hours. I don't know how the hell you're going to pull that off.
Today. I already did it.
You did?
I was asleep at 9 and up at 5. Yeah.
Well, it really is. It sounds really corny to say it like this, but it really is a one day at a time thing.
Yeah, no, it really is.
It's so dumb, but it is.
We should be in Insomniacs Anonymous.
One day at a time, going to bed at a regular time and waking up at a regular time.
If I can just jump in real quick. So this is a pattern that's happened before. And I would just point out that before you keyboard warriors tell us it's not about dev, remove destroying laptops and replace it with shipping crashers or shipping serious bugs into production. And it's the exact same thing. My Achilles heel happens to be I spill water into laptops, or in one case, gin. But you know what? When I was a young whippersnapper making the world a terrible place by writing Java applets, this is another lecture I had to get of it doesn't matter that you finish the tickets quickly because the feature's either not complete or not done right. So seriously, like if you're you know, 'cause I feel it, Chris, that some of them are sitting there like, oh, these old guys again. You're just old, dude. That's why you want to sleep. It's actually about optimizing performance. So if you only work an 8 to 10 hour day instead of 14, which is what I was doing, you will get more done and be able to like ship things better.
Damn right. Damn right. That is what it's about. Mr. Dominic, I love it. Anywhere you want to send people this week, anywhere you want them to go.
Go to themadbotter.com. We have a new post up today about some trends we see for the new year, and follow @Dominuku on Twitter.
Very good, sir. Very good. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We have a bit of an odd schedule since I'm traveling next week, but keep an eye out over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. We'll try to keep that up to date when we are going to be live. We'd love to have you join us, hang out in the chat room, and you can give us your feedback in real time. But if you're just listening, like 99% of everyone else, and want to give us your feedback post-fact, go to coder.show/contact. Also, everything that we have links for today, which isn't a ton, but everything we do have links, coder.show/339. Nice and simple. I'm at Chris LAS, the network's at Jupiter Signal, and the show's at Coder Radio Show, I think. Like I said, horrible at the self-promotion. And we got the subreddit, coderradio.reddit.com, where you can organize the revolt to get me off the show. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you right back here next week.